Welcome to this video on the NetFort LANGuardian installation. My name is Darren Delaney. I'm Head of Technical Services here at NetFort.com. So before you go to our website and download the software, you do need to allocate either a server or PC for the installation. Whatever you allocate, you don't need any base operating system, so we don't need Windows or anything like that. There is an operating system included in the install. You must have two network interface cards, have a 2 GHz or faster CPU, at least 2 GB of memory, and at least 40 GB disk space for the traffic database. If you do allocate something like that, then it can be installed like this into your network. So on this network we've got a single core switch with servers connected directly to the core. We've got a firewall here, default gateway out onto the internet. And we've installed our software here onto a server. Got two network cards, one is used for a span port and one is used for the management port. If you've got multiple core switches, then it's just a matter of assigning extra network cards in your LANGuardian and plugging into each of your core switches. But to get a trial up and running, connecting to one of your core switches is usually good enough to give you an idea of what is happening on your network. If you want to install as a virtual machine, again you don't need a base operating system. Currently we support VMware ESX or ESXi versions 4 and above. If you only want to monitor virtual environments, so you see the traffic inside these virtual environments, then you don't need any physical network cards. If you want to monitor your core network connecting to your core switch, then you do need a dedicated network card on your ESX server. You need to assign one CPU, at least 1 GB of memory, and also allocate 16 GB more disk space for the traffic database. So once you've set aside some hardware to install the software, next thing you need to do is go to our website, which is www.netfort.com. I'm now on NetFort.com. Towards the middle of the page, the home page here, we've got a download now option. I'm going to go there. There's two options then. We can either download an ISO image or we download a VMware appliance. The VMware appliance is pre-built. You can just mount it within your ESX environment. I normally download the ISO image because it gives me more flexibility when it comes to installing. You can use the ISO image to install onto a physical box, and you can also use the ISO image to build your own VMware appliance. Personally, I'd always recommend you go with the ISO image. So we click on the download option here, we fill in our details and then click on submit, and it prompts us to save the ISO file. You can then either burn it onto a CD and use that then to install your LANGuardian, or if you copy the ISO onto your ESX host, you can use that then to build up a virtual LANGuardian. So once you have your ISO installed, we then move on to installing it onto in my case I'm going to install it onto a virtual machine, but it's the exact same process you use for virtual and physical servers. I've now put the install CD into my server here, and I'm just booting up off the CD. So you know you're booting up when you just get some text here across the screen. It's just part of the boot up process. Drivers will load, it mounts disks. The kernel itself within the LANGuardian is based on a FreeBSD kernel. Although you never go near that, you don't need to be logging onto the console and using Unix commands and all that. It's all the LANGuardian management is done through a web front end. So we do have queries sometimes about, well, I'm getting some messages here on the console. You pretty much ignore all of those. It's just part of the boot up process. So we're now about to start the installation. So we just need to confirm that we type in yes here, that we want to continue with the installation. Just need to type that again, because it will overwrite the system, so you need to be careful of that. Don't install this onto your own personal laptop. The system will be overwritten. So we just want to continue with that. One disk is found, it's got disk ID 1. So we type in 1, return. And again, sure you want to continue, and that's fine, yes. It's found two network cards on the system. One is connected, one is not. So the connected one is, I'm going to use that for the management interface. I'm just going to press 1 here and go for that one. Give it an IP address. Network mask. And a default gateway. So that looks good. Press OK. I'm going to leave the DNS and it's a Google DNS address. Leave it at that. So again, we just double check settings. We install it onto the hard drive. IP address looks good, so that's fine. I'm going to type in yes. And the LANGuardian is now installed onto this system. So no matter what sort of server you assign, it just takes a couple of minutes to install the software, after which then the system is rebooted and you're up and running. So just going to wait here for the install to complete. Just going to telling me to press enter to restart. And it'll take a couple of minutes to restart. And while it's restarting, as I'm building this in a virtual environment, I have the option here to enable and disable interfaces. So I've got two network cards on this. So on the second network card here, I'm just going to connect it now. Just want to have it live. It is a good tip that when you were building your system, and if you've got two network cards, during the installation, you should only plug in one of the network cards. It becomes very easy to identify then which interface is used for management and which one you're going to use for your sensor. And that's where we'll put the span port on it, the mirror traffic would go to that port. So just plug in one interface during the build process, just makes it easier to identify. So again, we're getting lots of messages here. Again, you don't need to worry about any of these. Basically drivers loading, interfaces, cards coming up. At this point here, it's doing a database check, mounting this, just doing a quick database check. It's come up with some errors here, but they're really more than just notifications about some log files missing. That's fine. It often does that during the boot up process because it's as it clears down log files. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my browser and just to see is it available yet. Not booted up fully just yet. If you note in my browser, I'm going to HTTPS to the IP address I assigned. Oh, here it is now. It's just booted up. So the first time you log on, you get this certificate error. So just go proceed anyway. And we come to the wizard. So you scroll down, read through the license terms there. Agree with that. Go to next. IP address looks fine. I'm not going to change that. Just go for next. The home network is important. On my network here, I use 192.168 addressing, so they're private address ranges. If you use public addresses on your network, you do need to add those IP ranges here. So just comma separate them. So I don't need to change that. Proxy server I don't use, but it is important to add if you have a proxy server listed here with username and password. Email settings, these are used so the LANGuardian can send the email. So if you want to get a regular report from the system maybe once a day, or if you want to be alerted if there's a virus on your network, you need to fill in your SMTP server from and to address here. The SMTP server is usually a local one, so just type in something for that. Want to double check the time. If you have access to NTP, then best use that. I do have access to NTP server. If you want to set it manually, do it here. Just make sure the time is correct. So I'm going to go with NTP. So the next screen we're going to actually set the GUI password. So this is for the administrator account, and you need a minimum of 9 characters. Just go next on that. Oops, must have typed it wrong. Okay. Let's try that one now. That's fine. Let's accept it. If you've got Active Directory on your network, so if your users log on to an Active Directory domain, important at this point to set up the Active Directory integration because you'll get the usernames and the reports. On our website, you get our installation or user manual. Within that, there's instructions on how to set up a user account within AD for LANGuardian. Once you set up the user account, type it in here, put in the password and then the IP address of one domain controller. Then the system LANGuardian will automatically detect other domain controllers and you're up and running with the Active Directory module. I'm not going to set it up right now, I'm just going to move on to the next page. So it's telling me here that I've got one sensor port, which is correct, it's up. It's not seeing any span traffic because I haven't actually connected it to any core switch yet. So I'm just going to finish on that. Didn't log on. And I'm up and running with my new LANGuardian. Okay, I haven't set up the span port just yet, but it's ready to go. I can log on now to the IP address here, and I can start running reports when I send traffic to the system. Back over on the console, there isn't much here that you can do. You can log on as rescue. It does tell you here you can log on as rescue, and tells you here you should really go to the web front end there. It gives you the address to it. If you have to come to the console to log on, you can log on as rescue here and set a password, and you can gain access to the console. But again, there's no need to log on to the console for looking at users or traffic or security type stuff. It's more for maintenance of shutting the system down or maybe changing the IP address from your comms room. So once you see the logon prompt here, your system is booted up, and just go to get a browser and log on, and that's where you get to do most of the LANGuardian run reports, all the admin tasks. You can do them all from there as well. So that's all you need to do to get a LANGuardian up and running on your network.